Hello everyone and welcome back to Bitwig Studio and Music Production. This is lesson 2.14, and in this lesson we're going to do a little more work with the little custom EQ we made in the last video, and then we're going to get into some very basic automation. So some automation moves that are going to help us if we're mixing between a couple of tracks, or even just some creative automation moves as well. First thing I wanted to show you is with our effects rack here, we can close this up. We can double click the EQ, close that up, and then if we want to close it up so we're just seeing our macros, I can double click the FX layer just like that, and we're good to go. Now I have this EQ DJ following our effects layer, and I have it set up like that so I can monitor somewhat the frequency ranges. So if I kill the lows, you can see how the difference between our first EQ DJ and this one, and that's pretty handy, and that's a pretty cool feature, something rather unique. And I'll just bring it back up. Also wanted to show you, if I want to bring this back out, I'm just going to have to double click. And we're back out. And we have the same macro controls, but we have them as sliders right here. So if I wanted to, whoops, I can kill the lows here. Same thing. And now if I double click, I can bring it back to default, which is nice. And we obviously have our solo buttons and our mute buttons, which is a whole extra button versus what we have with the EQ DJ. Now the last thing is we can actually monitor what we're doing if we have the whole rack open here. So if I'm playing this back and I pull back on my lows, just watch the output and an orange line is going to come up and it's going to pull all the way down. So let's just watch that. You just have to make sure you're on the right band here. So if we go to our mids, and if you hold shift down, you can make micro changes. So instead of jumping in divisions of 0.5, we'll jump in divisions of 0.1, which is pretty handy if there's a specific number you want to get. The last thing is a little more advanced, and we're going to go into it in more depth later, but you might be asking, what would be the point of having a setup like this when we have our EQ DJ? And really, this is more going to be geared towards people when you're working on an actual production, because what I can do now is I could set up effects to only work in this particular frequency range. It's going to make more sense if you hear it, but when we're working in serial like this, each effect is listening to the effect before it. So in each of these bands, we have only one effect. But if I'm to add an effect after the mids, let's say we want a simple delay, so we'll use the delay 1. Now this is only going to affect this frequency range here, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So let's go back and play. So you can hear that delay, I hope. Turn off. Not really a practical setting, but if I bring in my lows, you hear no delay is occurring on our low frequency band that we have set up. Pretty cool, right? So I could go to then my highs here, and maybe I should rename this. And I could add a different delay going at a different speed. So we'll keep this here at our 4. Pull the mix down. Maybe we'll cut out more of the lows. There's not going to be any lows really happening anyway. Soll this back. Add a crazy amount of feedback. Let's bring them all back in. And we can get a little bit funky with all of these settings. So pretty cool, and you can hear the tail of that delay finishing out right there. All right, so maybe we want to save this rack and we could use this later, or in this case, it's called a layer, I guess. So to do that, I'm just going to hit this save button right here. And let's call it Brian EQ3 fun. Always add fun at the end of anything you save. And let's see, I'm going to call this layered. That's pretty much the only thing I want to add to this in terms of our metadata. And I'll keep it inside of containers. That's where I'll leave it. I'll click OK. So now I could delete this, open up my browser, go into our devices here, go into containers. And you can see it's right here, Brian EQ3 fun. And we could drop that back in if we wanted to. So just thought I would show that to you guys to start. I'm going to delete this EQ DJ, don't need it anymore, and I'll bring this one back up. The next thing we're going to talk about in this video is automation. So I've gone ahead, taken this track. As you can see, I've added stretch markers, so I've stretched it to my liking. And right now I'm working in stretch HD mode, which I prefer to just the regular stretch mode. And so now I should be able to play this back at its original tempo. And I could alter it if I wanted. But now, wouldn't it be cool if in my arranger timeline, I could actually have this changing by itself and I don't need to be pulling this up and down? Well, we can do that, and we're going to do that with automation. All automation is a change in a parameter over time. So we're going to see that here. If I double click on my master and bring it up, I'm going to click this button here, which is going to show automation lanes. And now I can change any parameter from the master that's able to be automated. And really, Bitwig is striving to make it so that every single thing you touch could be automated. So I'm going to go to transport, which is our bar at the top here, and I'll select tempo. Now I'm just going to double click any given point. So let's say at the end we want it to speed up. That's maybe a little too high. We'll start at the regular 121. And again, you can hold shift to try to knock this right on. Perfect. And now I'll just double click to make a new point. And we'll bring it up nice and smoothly. And that's a little crazy, isn't it? So maybe we'll just bring it up to like 140 or something like that. Cool. So now we could go back and listen to that change over time. And what you'll notice is a little blue dot has appeared here at the top. This means that this parameter has been set to be automated over time. So let's go ahead and listen back and see what it sounds like. And you can see it changing. You hear the speed picking up. Also listen to the metronome speeding up as well. I can make this a little more obvious. All right, cool. So you basically get the gist there of how that works. We have a few other cool parameters. One of them is that if I hold down the Option key, I can create a curve. And I could do that here. So let's say I want to really do something crazy. This is going to be insane when we play this back. And then I hold Option. I can make a little curve here. And so I can bend it up or I can bend it down. I'm going to bend it down so we get kind of like this really rapid rising movement here. Let's turn this off. Uh-oh. Here we go. We're getting out of control. This might be a time when going into repitch would be fun. Pretty cool, right? A couple other things. Bitwig has made a entire panel dedicated to automation, which I think a lot of people have been asking for and have wanted. It's going to make making those micro adjustments that much easier. So to access that, you can either click the A button, and that will bring it up, or you can just click down here on the second one that says Show Automation Editor Panel. So now what I could do is I could bring this up really high if I wanted to, and I could make some micro changes and just have a better view of what's going on. And again, this is specific to our entire timeline going across here. So be wary of that and understand that if you're working with just a small clip and you only want to make changes inside of that clip to occur time and time again, you're going to have to do something a little bit different, which we'll talk about later. So let's go ahead and clear this automation for right now. And you'll notice once I double click off everything, we lose that dot. And now I'm just going to go back in here and set it to 121. So same process. If we want to change something inside of our deck here, I'm going to add a lane. And now I could choose all of these things. So I'm going to choose my EQ DJ, and I'm going to select Kill Lows. And that's popped up for me right there. So let's say at the 161 point, I want to kill the lows, and this time we'll use our automation panel. So let's go in here, let's double click, let's make a line. So right here it's off. By default, I want this to be on. I'll make a second point. I'm just going to pull it back to my first point and then drag it down. So now we're going to, right at 161, kill the lows. Let's take a listen to that.
So much light, you won't believe. Been away for some days. So much light, you won't believe.
I apologize, guys. I had that backwards. I assumed that it would be working the other way there. Or maybe I did it right. I'm not sure. Hold on. Let me put my headphones on. We'll figure this out together. Yeah, when you're at on here, that actually means that the switch is going to be killed. And so we actually have to set it to off to kill it. All right, we learned stuff together, right?
So much light, you won't believe. Been away for some days.
Now, if I want to have multiple lanes going at once, I can just go ahead and click this plus button here. And right now we see 2 lanes of killing the lows, but if I change this up here, this is going to stay. So let's say I want to go to my EQ DJ and I want to kill the mids. Okay? So let's take a look at that. I'm going to make a point somewhere. And let's do it this way. So let's take a listen to this right now. And we can watch our little things down here as well. So right now the lows are killed. Now they're in. And now we've killed the mids. And we don't just have to do this with like buttons, as is the case here with just on off. We could also select something like our highs, and you notice right when I click a parameter that could be automated, by default it changes. So unless I've saved my other automation lane, it will just go away, and I'd have to go back in here and select kill mids, and then I'd have to add it to a new lane, and then I could go in here and click high or something, and I have a new little guy. Let's by default bring it to where it would be, which I assume is 0. I'm going to hold shift, get me right to 0. And this is where using the actual timeline would come in a little bit more handy, so we could make this change and actually get it right on 0. There we go. So let's just kill the lows over time here, and I'll hold I'll hold option. I'm going to add a curve to this as well, so we can watch what's happening right here. All right, so that's just a really basic introduction to automation, how it works, how to add different lanes, and I hope that's helpful. In the next video, we're going to talk about making a transition between 2 tracks, and then we're going to have a little bit of an assignment for everybody. So I hope you are looking forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you again in the next lesson.